Hello and welcome to Produce Talks, the CPMA podcast. I am your host and CPMA Education Manager, Ian Brody. On this episode, we're going to keep the conversation going on food loss and waste. We've been working hard with industry partners on developing the CPMA Food Waste Reduction Tool as we plan for its release this summer. Here, we'll discuss the ins and outs of the waste reduction tool, who can use it, how to use it, and the results that companies can expect. First, let's start off with some numbers. It is estimated that in North America, almost 170 million tons of the food produced for human consumption goes to waste. According to the UN, 1/3 of the world's food globally goes to waste. All the while, food security is a top priority. 1 in 8 households in Canada are food insecure. That's over 4 million Canadians. Another top global priority, climate change. Food waste in Canada creates about 56 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions. On the consumer side, the average Canadian household spends $1,766 per year on food that eventually ends up in the trash. So, at the end of the day, everyone has a role to play in reducing food loss and waste, and everyone can benefit one way or another when it is achieved. And we're seeing efforts being made as most retailers will repackage produce nearing expiry for bulk discount prices. Most growers will repurpose spoiled produce and put it back in the soil, while consumers are getting more informed and more waste conscious online and at the grocery store. And here's the thing. When it comes to produce businesses across the supply chain, reducing food loss and waste and finding efficiencies means a direct positive impact on the financial bottom line. Helping industry tackle food loss and waste along the produce supply chain are Dr. Martin Gooch and Dan Laplain at Value Chain Management International. CPMA has partnered with VCMI to develop and offer an online consulting tool. Welcome, Martin and Dan, to Produce Talks. Obviously, it's an important topic for us today in food loss and waste.
Yes, it's been a great opportunity, and it's great vision by CPMA to have this tool developed. It's unique in the world, both in the extent of what CPMA members are going to be able to have access to and its capabilities. Nothing of quite like it has been developed elsewhere, so it's unique. It's a unique opportunity.
And food loss and waste, I mean, it's really a global issue. And on issues like this, you typically have all sorts of NGOs and councils and governments applying their own definitions and terminology. So in the interest of clarity, to start off, I'm hoping maybe we can try to establish a bit of a glossary, I guess, in the context of waste. So I'll throw out some terms, and maybe you guys can define them. So let's start off with food loss and waste.
So food loss and waste, it really covers two separate ideas, concepts. So food loss is typically viewed as a description used to food items that are produced for human consumption, though do not reach, are not consumed as intended. So food loss is that loss of that inefficiency that occurs prior to the final consumer food product being distributed to retail or food service. Food waste is the term typically used to those items that are lost for either for whatever reason, either during distribution, so retail, food service, or in the home. And that's what those terms mean. They just help give focus on where in the whole food chain the inefficiency, the wastes occur.
Right. And so food loss is a little bit earlier on in the chain, and I guess waste is further towards the end.
Exactly.
And so I've read about avoidable waste and unavoidable waste. Can you maybe give a little bit of a contrast between the two?
Sure. So avoidable waste is, for a good example, would be salad that is perfectly edible when it's purchased at the retail store, but it sits in a consumer fridge to the point that it begins going off, goes past its use-by date, and therefore it's not consumed, though it could well have been. It was perfectly good at one stage. So it's waste that is avoidable. There was no need for it to have occurred if things had transpired as planned. Unavoidable waste is, for example, in corn. You've got the internal within the cob of corn that's not able to be consumed, or you've got the skin from the banana that again isn't able to be consumed. That's unavoidable.
So when we're talking about finding efficiencies, I guess we're only really talking about avoidable waste specifically?
Not really,
Okay.
because if you address avoidable waste, you also address the unavoidable waste, or at least a part of the unavoidable waste that occurred in the production of that avoidable waste or occurs at the same time as the avoidable waste occurs. So all waste is avoidable to a degree, though yes, absolutely, avoidable waste is where the greatest opportunities lie.
Talking about ways to mitigate food loss and waste, there's redistribution and recovery. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Sure. So redistribution is, for example, surplus food. It's beyond the excess of what consumers have, or the consumers need, and therefore it's rescued and recovered or redistributed through to, for example, a food bank or those that have need of food that are unable, for whatever reason, to purchase it. Recyclable is, for example, composting is an example of recyclable, and then you've got so they're the two main areas.
And so I've read in some of your documentation about the hidden factory. Can you talk a little bit about the hidden factory and what that is?
Yeah, sure. So it could be a hidden factory, it could be a hidden office, it could be a hidden government. And it's basically the time, money, and effort that goes into correcting things when they go wrong. So, for example, if you thought about a packaging line, it took too long to go from product A to product B, and then the weights weren't right. So now we've got a skid of produce that's packaged, and the packages are underweight or overweight, so they've got to be opened, and then there's a delay shipping to the customer, and then the freight company has to be sort of put on premium, or someone has to do something to work around. Maybe there's a delay in the shipment. All of those things take human intervention, take time, and therefore cost money. And most organizations that are in business are profitable to some extent, and they've in their sort of income statement, they've provided for all that inefficiency in the hidden factory. So if you can start reducing the cost of that hidden factory, the savings from that go straight to the bottom line.
For companies starting to take a look at their food loss and waste, is it really all about sort of finding that hidden factory?
I think it's about doing what's right for the customer and doing what's right for the business. So if the company says, we could greatly improve our changeover rate, we can reduce our changeover time, and that's going to save us money, they might think, well, that's good, but their customer might be saying, well, you keep sending us packages which are mislabeled, or they're not packaged, or they arrive damaged. So look at the world through the lens of the customer to begin with.
What Dan described there speaks directly to the greatest opportunities that many businesses miss, and that's preventing waste occurring in the first place. And so preventing it, and we look at it from the lens of loss and waste does not occur in isolation. So don't seek to address it in isolation. And by addressing the root causes of waste, whether that be, as Dan suggested, in terms of packaging process and damaged products reaching the customer, which of course then go to waste, the cost incurred in that waste, bundled up in that waste, goes way beyond the cost of the individual product itself. And the root causes of that waste occurring can extend across the business. So address the root causes, and the wider opportunities of the business can be really very significant.
Right. And that's where this web tool comes in.
Absolutely.
So which businesses along the supply chain can use this tool? Obviously, I think it's great for growers. Can other businesses along the supply chain use it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. All the businesses along any supply chain can use the resource and the tools, and that's because all businesses have customers, all businesses have suppliers, and all businesses have processes, whether they're robust, well-documented, managed processes, or sort of what I call a collection of tribal knowledge. The methodology and indeed the opportunity to improve those processes and start reducing the hidden factory are applicable to all of the elements of the supply chain. And
yeah, I mean, I did see in the research when it comes to actually measuring food loss and waste, retailers are really leading the way. 96% of retailers that you had surveyed said that they measure food loss and waste. Next highest along the supply chain is distribution at 60%, yes, with I think production and processing just behind that. So obviously, I think retail has really been focusing on this. They're, of course, more consumer-facing, I guess. Is that the main driver behind the focus on waste, do you think?
I think part of the answer is that retailing is a very slim margin business. And therefore, addressing inefficiency has driven part of the focus on measuring. So for us, it's knowing why you're measuring and gather in that measuring, gather information you can act upon. Mm-hmm. And so part of the key element of the tool is not just measuring, it's measuring in a way that provides information, data, and solutions that you can act upon, which is critical. It's not just getting numbers.
Right. It's all about, I guess, identifying those processes and inefficiencies that can really help go in reducing food waste.
Indeed.
So the food waste web tool, let's talk a little bit more about how to access it and how companies can set up an account and really start to dive into a food waste and lost project. So we talked a little bit about which businesses can use it, which is just about everybody. So how would companies go about starting a project?
Okay, so they would need to sit down as a group and sort of consider what are the sort of recurring problems that they encounter that are kind of process related, that keep recurring, and yet they don't seem to, in spite of their best efforts, they don't seem to have been able to affect a lasting solution. So they've got a recurring issue on their hands. And perhaps that's the opportunity to say, well, okay, let's consider this as a project and be willing to have someone lead it as a project, be responsible for facilitating a group of people and set up a team of subject matter experts. And they're going to have to sort of allow these people some time to actually sort of be away from the workplace for an hour or two a week, or maybe a little bit longer, to sort of use the tools, but to systematically go through the methodology and follow the steps. And if they pick the right subject or the right matter, and they follow the methodology, they will get a result. So if it's a problem that said, we've got our changeover times are keep taking longer because Dan isn't following the process, then that's not a project. That's the responsibility of Dan's supervisor to sit him down and have a discussion that said, look, you're either going to have to follow the process. Let me know if you don't understand it. We can help you. Or if you choose not to follow the process from now on, you're going to be looking for a job. It's behavioral. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at fixing processes, not behaviors.
Right. It'll have a positive impact on the company's bottom line. So I think that ROI definitely is there. So it would be worth, the time invested in putting the groundwork in.
Yeah, it's an investment and of people's time, and we've minimised the amount of time they'd have to spend being trained because most of the training that's required is available in the resource in one format or another. The hidden factory generally costs most organizations that haven't undertaken any kind of process improvement about 20 to 40% of their income, of their revenue. And they're not going to save all of that, but if incrementally over a sustained effort, they can start reducing it by a few percent every year, that's going to make a significant difference to their bottom line, what they're able to invest in the business, and employee satisfaction. I mean, employees don't really want to be sort of constantly putting out fires. The people that are good at putting out the fires being the ones that get promoted or get on. They want to be able to do something which they feel is, they're contributing to in a meaningful way. Mm-hmm. And, by exposing even sort of frontline production workers to this sort of tool and methodology, you are sharing, you're educating them and you're exposing them to different situations. You're growing them.
And so you did mention that there's resources available in the tool. I did see a guide that's available for download. There's also videos to walk people through as well.
Yeah, so perhaps now is the time to just talk about the tool generally. And I've been involved in the whole Lean Six Sigma movement in many different industries over 20 years. And after a while, you realize that there are three types of process improvement projects. There are variation reduction projects, which involve a lot of statistical knowledge, and that's where the sort of the term black belt, green belt came from. People that have been away and have had a lot of training and are somewhat statistical experts. Then you have sort of what I call lean projects, which are sort of reducing cycle time of processes. But I found that most of the projects that organizations undertook in the early stages were what I call SOP projects, which are standard operating procedure projects, where if they take a step back, if the management and workers take a step back and do a critical review of the process, they realize that it's evolved and been bolted together over a period of time, maybe many years. And it's actually a collection of tribal knowledge. I can remember being involved in one food packaging operation, and they had a high-speed bagger machine, had several of them. And we found that there were actually over 250 embedded and saved settings in the machine's memory for one product, because everyone thought they had a better way of doing it than the previous operator. And yet, when we sat the experts down and said, "Okay, here are the parameters. Tell me what you'd set them at for this pack of product," they all came up with different answers. So by sort of getting to here are the things that we need to adjust, here are the things that we leave alone, and let's agree what the starting point is and what we adjust and by how much and when. And we ended up with a robust process. So we took the tools that really applied to getting some basic rigor and discipline and robust processes in place, rather than requiring people to have a huge amount of statistical knowledge. And there is one tool that has some basic stats, but it's Excel based, and you put in your data points, and it does all the heavy lifting for you and gives you a number, as it were. Mm-hmm. So we've actually got 14 steps, and each step has a guide which says, okay, here's the purpose, or here's the objective of this step. Here's what you need to prepare. Here's before you get started, you make sure you're ready to do these things. Then it has a completion guide, and then when you think you're done, and then at the very end, we're asking people to say, okay, tell me what you found here. And there's some dialogue boxes where people can put in some information, which will all flow through to a final report at the end. And then each step in turn has a worked example that they can refer to. Mm-hmm. It has a video that sort of reaffirms how the tool is applied and used. Mm-hmm. Then we have in many of the steps, we have a template which people can download if they want to, or they can use the tool online. There's actually an online version that they can complete. In order to encourage people to actually follow the methodology, we're looking for, at the end of each step, in the last penultimate section of that step, which is section 7, sort of, okay, here's the checklist. Have you done this? Have you done that? Does everyone agree? List the key actions here, and those actions will flow through to the report. And then at the end of that is sort of, okay, you're confident that you have followed the step, you've completed the checklist, click here, and you can move on to the next step. So you can't go step 1, 2, 3, 6. You have to actually follow the methodology. Mm-hmm. And then there is, some people may not have ongoing access to a computer at their place of work, especially if they're a frontline worker. So there is the opportunity to download the entire workbook, including the examples, obviously not the videos, in one document and use it as a workbook, which other organizations have tried out and work through it that way. Mm-hmm. And then at an appropriate time go and update the online version. So that's generally how the tool works. The CPMA members can access the tool through the CPMA website. There's a secondary login. And if I'm a team lead and Martin's the general manager, Martin can think, we've decided that we're going to make a concerted effort to reduce our line changeover times. Dan's the team lead. I'm going to assign him that project. He can email it to me through the tool, and he gives me a project title. He assigns me as the leader, and he gives me a project name and a password, and then I can go in and start using the tool.
So you can have multiple users set up.
Indeed, yes.
For each project.
So any organization can have multiple projects, and potentially any person in the organization can have more than one project on the go. Not advisable, but sometimes if a project stalls, there's a planned delay in a project while something is done, mm-hmm. Then maybe they're working on another project. Yeah,
I think maybe to start a little slow and do one project at a time might be the way to go.
Yeah, do one, take the time, but mm-hmm. above all, take the time, especially with the first projects, to really understand what the step is all about and thoroughly complete it. And at the end, when you think you're done, step back and go through the checklist and say, well, have we really done this, and what were the outcomes? Populate the dialogue boxes, which will flow through to the report. So the CPMA will be able to see in a sort of a macro sense how many projects are underway, what the nature of the project is, if it's sort of improving customer satisfaction, reducing food waste, or whatever the nature is. There's some categories, mm-hmm. So they'll be able to see the sort of the traction that's going on with the tool.
And in terms of those 14 steps, I mean, obviously some are going to take longer than others. Is there a general timeline guide for each step?
So each step, Ian, has at the beginning, it says, it gives you the title of the step, and it will give you a sort of, this is going to take you about an hour to complete.
Right.
The first one probably will take longer. As you get better at it, that will take less. But it's got a guideline. So if someone's been working on the same thing for 3 days, clearly they're doing something wrong, or maybe they need some help. So every step has an estimate of how long it would take to complete it properly. Yes.
If a company is going through this process, and if they come along any stumbling blocks, or if they have any questions, is VCMI available to be contacted by any of the members that are using the tool?
Yes, certainly.
And I mean, going forward, after using the tool, I see that the last step is, sustaining the gains. So it's an ongoing step intended to sustain those process improvements. It's not just a short-term initiative, right? It's about tracking, right, and evaluation and ongoing improvement.
Absolutely. So, to the extent that management thought that a particular project was important enough for a person or a team of people to work on, then they better be having a key performance indicator that the management team review on a regular basis to make sure that this isn't a flash in the pan. That they really are sustaining the gains, and probably more importantly, that having fixed a problem in one situation, they can look for similar situations and say, well, what can we take? What improvements from the project can we simply copy and paste into similar situations or similar processes?
Mm-hmm. Whether it's a different commodity or different process, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if there's some lessons learned from, say, setup time reduction on line 1, what can we copy and paste to other lines?
Mm-hmm. And the other thing too is, I think it would be good to sort of document and really showcase any success stories as well. We're going through the numbers in terms of the amount of food that gets wasted in Canada. And I think that it certainly is almost a great PR opportunity as well.
Indeed. Yes.
Yeah. And so CPMA will also plan on showcasing some case studies. So, certainly going forward, we're looking forward to hearing success stories that come out of this.
Yeah, as we are, and the opportunities should never be underestimated. For example, some of our colleagues and ourselves, we've worked with businesses where, yes, the overall focus is on reducing inefficiencies, and that's part includes food loss and waste. But the financial opportunities can often run into the millions of dollars annually. In fact, some businesses, it's tens of millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. Because yes, food loss and waste is part of it in terms of its reduction. So the benefits to the bottom line can and often are significant.
Absolutely. So just going forward, I guess in the short term here, we are planning a webinar for anybody that would be interested to do sort of a training session, I guess, or a walkthrough on how to use the tool. And we are also planning in-person training sessions as well. So certainly stay tuned for anybody that's interested for more information on those training sessions. Let's take a break with a word from our sponsor, Nature Fresh Farms. After the break, we'll dive back into it and go over the 14 steps of the waste reduction tool with Dan.
Hey, it's Bryn from Nature Fresh Farms. Did you know more than half of all food produced in Canada is lost or wasted? One tip to avoid food waste is to properly store your vegetables. Try keeping your tomatoes at room temperature for a longer shelf life, or reduce serving sizes when cooking meals. To find out more, go to www.naturefresh.ca/recipes for more ideas on how to use up those veggies and help combat food waste.
So I'm wondering, Dan, if you could give me a quick overview of the 14 steps and what's involved in each.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first step is a project charter, and the objective of that is to get a clear, documented definition of what it is that the team or the project leader is there to do. So what is the problem, and what is the objective, and quite importantly, is what is the scope of that project? And it's very important that it's bite-sized and it can be achieved in, say, 4 to 6 weeks. We don't go off on a mission to boil the ocean, as I've heard it called, and that we understand who's involved in the project, who's going to be leading it, who are the core team members, what the measure of success will be. And if there's any notion at all as to what the potential savings are, let's have that sort of documented. It might just be an estimate at the beginning, and then the finance person might look at it and fine-tune the numbers as improvements are made. And then the last thing that should happen is a senior member of the organization should sign off on that, so that they're committing to, yes, I want you to work on this. I'm giving you the resources, the time and the people to work on it. And also, if things or people get in the way, then it's my responsibility to address those in a timely manner and not yours, because you don't want people sort of fighting with each other.
Yeah.
So that's the first step.
Yeah, it sounds like it's getting that commitment, I guess.
Absolutely. And people are all agreed. Yeah, we have defined the problem. We finally defined what it is that's going wrong. And then step two is really who is the customer? And there's two types of customer generally for every process. There's definitely an internal customer, which would be the person downstream from the process that receives the output. And there's probably ultimately for every organization an external customer. So who are they? And what are the attributes that they list that are critical to quality? And of all of the attributes, it's sort of, these are the ones that are critical. If you can't do this for me, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do business with you. These are the ones that are important, so you better know how to do them and deliver them. And then, there's a few here that will be nice to have. And if they're not deal breakers, but if you can do them, I'd sure be pleased, and maybe that gives you an edge over the competition. So that's the next step. The third step is to map the process as it currently functions or maybe doesn't function. And now we understand who the customers are and what's important and critical to them. How well does that process deliver on what those customers want? And every organization has a character in it called Tim Wood. And Tim Wood is an acronym for wasted or unnecessary transportation, inventory, motion, waiting, overproduction, overprocessing, or just plain defects. So as we map out the process, how much Tim Wood do we have in the organization? And very often, once people see the way the process is actually mapped out, they think, we're starting to see an opportunity. Why is someone waiting 2 days for an order to hit them when it's sat in customer service? So so far we understand the problem, we understand who the customers are and what they want. We've now got a graphical representation of how the process functions or doesn't function. Now we want to measure it. So the fourth step is let's put a plan together to collect some data over a period of time, maybe a week or two, depending on how much data gets generated in that interval, and see how the process actually performs against specification. There's actually two types of data, and there are two tools to analyze them. There's continuous random data, which could be in a pack line, the weight of the finished product coming out. And then there's attribute data, which could be the reason something happened, like a machine or a piece of equipment broke down. So, if we're going to ask people to go to the bother of measuring and recording things, we need to have a plan so we clearly understand what it is we want them to do and how they're going to do it. And they can read that plan back to us so that we don't go back down in a week and they say, well, I didn't really understand what you wanted me to do, so I don't have anything for you. We've now lost a week. So we take a bit of time and plan. And then step 5, if it's continuous random data, there's the opportunity to plug in up to 50 data points into the tool. And you can either use the tool online or download the Excel template. And the tool will give you a time series or a line chart so you can look for patterns and trends. And it will also do some basic statistical analysis. It will give you the mean or the average, the median or the middle of the data set. It will give you the observed range, and it will give you the standard deviation. And if you wanted to compare the process output data to the specification, you can plug in the specification numbers, and it will give you a capability index which shows you how well the process fits within the specification. So that's a snapshot of step 5. And then step 6 is basically a very simple Pareto chart, which said if over a 2-week period we collected all the reasons why something was being a problem, let's say we couldn't do a changeover or a piece of equipment broke down, we can plug those into the tool in step 6, and it will show us what the sort of the significant few items are versus the trivial many. So there's an example of that in the workbook. And then we move on to step 7. So we understand the customer, we understand the process, we understand how the process is performing or not. Let's now use in step 7 a cause and effect diagram, where we can brainstorm potential causes to the problem, or perhaps a series of problems that we've picked up from the process and the output data. And that's a tool that's been around for a number of years, as have most of these tools. So then we're probably now at the point where it's sort of okay. We can start to see what might be done. So steps 8, 9, and 10 kind of all go together, and we're suggesting that the team sets aside enough time to complete the 3 tools or the 3 steps at the same time, so while they've got some momentum. Step 8 is let's identify all the ideas that we have that would, now we know what we know, that could improve the process, get rid of tin wood, improve customer satisfaction, and get the process performance numbers up if they need to go up. So that's basically brainstorming ideas.
Right.
And then step 9 is sorting them out into 4 areas, and the one that we want to get to are the ideas that are fairly easy or straightforward to execute, don't require a huge amount of capital investment or anything like that. This is just basically straightening out the process and can be done right now. And at that point, you really want to bring in management and say, okay, here's all of our ideas. Here's how we've divided them up into the ones that we'll do in time. We could do, but really they're not going to give us any results. We might do at some point, but here's the ones that we think we should act on. And then here's step 10, which are for each action, for each idea, here are the sort of perhaps multiple actions for each that we've assigned to actually execute that idea, to bring it into play. So you give management the opportunity to review with the team what they're suggesting and be able to say, yep, okay, you got my blessing, and go away, do it. So as they implement the new ideas, step 11 is, what does the future step process look like? So that is really coming up with the future state process map reformatted in a particular way. And there's also some templates for a standard operating procedure and an instruction, which maybe organizations don't have. So we've got some basic templates with some guidance on how to complete, that they can put their new process flow in. And then before they move to the brave new world, it's probably appropriate to step back and say, okay, we're bringing about change here, and all change will be resisted in some way, shape, or form. So what are the risks? What could go wrong? So we've got a basic, what I call failure mode and effects analysis based 9 box, which says that for every risk idea that the team members can think of, let's put it in a color-coded box according to its impact on the process and its probability of happening. And red, yellow, green. Yeah,
red is danger, right, danger, danger.
Yeah, so if we've got a bunch of stuff in the red zone, well, let's not deploy on that until we've at least got it down into the yellow, preferably green.
Sure.
Maybe in the longer term have some plans for the yellow. And the low impact stuff that's in the green zone, there's always going to be risks. So just keep an eye out for things. Step 13 is probably optional for some organizations, and it's a control chart. And control charts are a statistical tool that's been around for a long while, require a lot of calculations or some expensive software and fairly accurate charting. So again, we've divided it up into red, yellow, and green zones with a target for where we want the process to run. So there's no calculations, there's no accurate charting. People can simply say, okay, I'm running in the green zone. I keep going. I take a sample every so often. I've measured it. It's running in the green zone. Mm-hmm. I'll put a mark in the green zone. Keep going. Or, oops, we've gone into the yellow zone. Don't quite know why. We'd better start monitoring it. Or we'll take another sample, and if it continues, perhaps we ought to be ready to, at the next opportunity, to make an adjustment or go get some help. Or if we're in the red zone, sort of, okay, we're now producing something which doesn't meet the customer's requirements. We need to stop. Mm-hmm. So that's step 13. And the very last step is sustaining the gains, which is step 14. And that's along the lines of making sure that all of the operators affected by the new process have been trained. They understand the new process and what's required of them. They understand how performance is being measured. There's a regular daily, weekly meeting, crew meeting, whereby people are able to express their concerns. Supervisors, managers observe the process, and that sort of thing. So there's sustainability built into the end. And then from the penultimate section of each step, whatever people have put in the dialogue box will all push through to the end, so they can print out a report.
Yeah.
And if they so desire, there's a PowerPoint deck. So if they wanted to share it amongst the other divisions or the CPMA members or whatever there's a PowerPoint deck that they can access.
That's great. And so what's really standing out to me is it requires a few things. It requires a commitment from leadership. You need that buy-in from leadership and for leadership to really say, okay, we're going to take a look at this and we're going to commit the time to this. And then the other one is collaboration as well. I think, like you said, best to have a few members on a team and really dedicate a team towards this. So to really get that team-based approach and that collaboration really could go a long way as well.
Yeah, and you want a good cross-section of people on that team, and even having a naysayer, it can be a good thing because,
of course.
One convert can be quite valuable.
Yeah, no, it certainly seems like a great tool. I can't wait to see the results and some of the stories that we hear that come out of it.
Yeah, we're looking to see what the CPMA membership is able to accomplish with it. I think there's a lot of potential there.
Of course. So I'll share some more information at the end of the episode on how to access it. So I want to say thank you so much to both of you, Martin and Dan at VCMI. I'm sure we'll be talking to you shortly on the progress and some of the stories we'll be hearing about this.
Yeah, thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the fact that the tool is founded on proven tools that we've used, as Dan said, in multiple industries, including fresh and processed produce in different countries, speaks to the opportunities that it provides CPMA members.
A big thank you to Martin and Dan from VCMI for joining me on this episode. As mentioned on the show, we're planning training sessions across Canada and one in the United States. Stay tuned for more information about those training sessions, along with a how-to webinar we will be hosting to help you get started. Until next time, fill half your plate with fruits and veggies, continue to seek out new knowledge, and basically never stop growing.